What's going on, everybody? You're watching The Sit Down. I'm DJ Sixsmith. Look who we got. Jimmi Simpson. What's up, man? Good to meet you. And this is you right here, too.
That's that guy.
Perpetual Grace
Yes.
on Epics.
He's looking edgy and shadowed for effect.
Yeah, you got to get deep into that role.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. You have no choice but to go deep when Steve Conrad's involved.
Yeah, it's your only option, right?
Oh my God, it's the only way he thinks, and he's such a lovely, loving, light-hearted person, but he's capable of such beautiful dramatic tapestry, and he puts his life into it, his soul, his time, and you gotta respect his work.
No question.
When you jump in there, you gotta just at least try to be
just to level up a little bit.
Yeah, just some hovering near his level, as near as possible. Steve.
And then you got Jackie Weaver in there as well.
Jackie Weaver's brilliant, and she's a peach of a human being. I'm such a fan of hers. We hit it off day 2 because I made her a PJ Tips that made her say that it would make her husband jealous. It was so tasty.
The ultimate stamp of approval.
Oh,
you're like, I'm in.
And so we've been thick as thieves since. And Sir Ben Kingsley, he's
you got a squad.
He's a talent.
You really do.
Yeah. I think he's kind of outdone himself for this role. He showed up to the table read. Now, before you start a series,
right,
you have a table read where you have your designers, the costume set. Everybody gets in this big room. It's a week or 2 away from starting filming, and we just kind of see what we've all got together. Sir Ben Kingsley shows up off book completely.
Wow.
For the whole script. Now, we'd all prepared and had some stuff.
This is a whole different level here.
No, this is another level. He's really showing me where I'll be heading as far as preparation. I'll never achieve his greatness, but just his level of preparation is inspirational.
Had you ever seen anything like that specifically? I mean, you've been in so many different projects. I mean, that has to be pretty unique, right?
It was really unique. It's the only time I ever saw an actor not look at his script at the table read. He was brilliant.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So why don't we do a little rewind here? Why don't we start at the beginning? Take me back.
Where's you
When did you get the bug to be an actor and get involved in entertainment?
I was a late bugger. Jackie Weaver would have fun with that. Late bugger. Yeah, it was. I had a little taste for plays starting when I was maybe 16, 17. I listened to Jesus Christ Superstar a lot because it was like the one record with a little bit of funk.
Interesting. Yeah. You're like, all right, this is different.
This is the one. And I knew all the songs. I like to sing a little bit, and so I would sing along. And they were doing it at a community theater, and my mother said, "You should go audition for Jesus Christ."
You're like, I know the music. Why not?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I got a line. I said, "Hey, cool it, man." And
that was the start.
Yeah, but I grew to love the craft throughout this play, but I had never met. This was community theater, so everyone it was teachers, folks from town. They'd give their nights up to rehearse this play over a month, and then you do them on the weekends, and that seemed pretty cool to me. And I'd never met an actual paid actor who made their living from acting until I was maybe 22 or so. So I headed off to college to get a business and English degree, and halfway through college, I took a theater course, kind of on a lark. I honestly wanted something I could skip. I wanted a class I could skip because it was an auditorium, and I had a free, what do you call those classes that aren't necessary? Elective.
Oh, elective,
I had
right.
a free elective, and I took the class, but I didn't go, and I went I audited it halfway through, and this professor, Karen Anselm, said, "I take attendance, and I'm going to fail you unless you ace the finale, which is performance." So I just worked my butt off to not fail, and I put together this piece from a Stephen Sondheim play, which was the only play I knew besides Jesus Christ Superstar, and she asked me to be a major. So honestly, it was the effect of someone saying, "I'm inviting you to do this," and it was a novel experience for me. I've always been a bit shy, a bit awkward, very happy being isolated, no one paying attention. So to have someone say, "Join our group of creative people. I said, okay, I'll add it to my degree. And it just started my appreciation of plays and performing, and I think Sam Shepard and Shakespeare are my two draws.
Yeah,
like, oh my God, these brains creating these stories, and they're so true to life. And I want to tell stories. I want to show people themselves in beautifully written pieces of work. And it just, I never had any expectation. I really thought I could just do it at nighttime. But I lucked out, and I did a stand-up set in Williamstown Theater Festival. And it was ridiculous. It was about an accidental acid trip. And
this is based on a true story?
1,000%. I mean, I was this nerdy kid I had like wire rim glasses.
Oh, wow.
I had like Kmart Bugle Boys. And a kid came up to me and goes, "Yes," I was like, I'd never smoked pot. I'd never done anything. And he goes, "Yeah, you should take this. You get to see colors."
You're like, cool, let's do it.
and so I took it in Spanish class.
During class?
The next class, yeah. And I didn't feel anything, so I took the second one.
Oh my gosh.
And so I had this totally wild, hilarious, eye-opening experience, and I just, I prattled on about it at Williamstown, and Louis Black, a stand-up genius, was doing a play. He had his agent with him, so they came to see the apprentices do these bad stand-up bits, and she saw something.
Wow.
Marion Rubacki, her name was, and started sending me out for, NYPD Blue and things.
That's really serendipitous.
Yeah,
that's
man.
crazy.
Yeah, it was lucky, and I haven't touched stand-up since because I kind of pulled a Costanza, like,
I'm out.
I'm out. It worked. I'm out. Yeah. So and luckily, because I never saw myself as inherently needing to be on stage or on screen. I've never seen myself that way. I'm real happy, kind of being diminutive, and so I just don't have. A lot of actors, they have like that knowledge acts like a little, I don't know, off-board motor for them. They're like, I'm going because I believe that this is the case and I belong here. And there's power there. There's like thrust that I didn't have. But I think there's also like a weight to it. There's a weight of expectation. There's the weight of waiting for this thing that which I don't have.
No.
I don't have that albatross.
You didn't expect it to be your life. Yeah.
No, and I know that I'm a human animal, so it's, I'm prone to bouts of stupidity and selfishness and all these things. So all of my entitlement comes from something I've just done in the moment. I don't expect ahead of time. So it just keeps me on my toes, I think.
Well, that's really interesting because entitlement is such a big part of life in general.
Yeah.
That we just feel as though, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, just in all walks of life, you put forth this effort, you feel as though you should have this thing happen in your life, right?
Sure.
And you're like, you know what? No, I'm just gonna change my expectations. Whatever happens, great. But I didn't even expect to be at the table here.
Absolutely, and it's so part of me that it continues today. I give myself accolades based on what I've just done. There's never going to be a point where I'm like, "See, told you."
Right.
Just bring
Look
it on,
at me.
everybody. Keep giving me work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, because you realize it could end just like that.
Exactly.
And it's over.
And also, I'm weirdly comfortable with that concept. The idea of I feel like I've lived a couple different lives.
Yeah.
Because things change so drastically. They don't warn you that when you're little, but you live these different lives. And if my next life, while I'm still on this mortal coil, is not acting, if this stops happening for whatever reason, I know I'm going to find happiness. There's no question. Whether any job, I'll find some kind of joy. So it does help keep me afloat in a business that's really kind of results-based in a lot of ways.
And it's a what have you done for me lately business also.
So much. But that I can get. Like, less of like, ooh, you're hot now and cold now, but what have you done lately, Miss Jackson? What have you done lately? So work your ass off. You know, prepare more than the guy that almost got this role, and show them why they landed on you.
Yeah, especially when you're doing these day player roles, where you're popping onto this show, you're doing 3 episodes on 24, you know, you're just doing this, that, and the other thing. It's like,
call my 24 number. What?
Come on. I mean, I was a big 24 fan, so anytime I can bring up 24,
that's awesome.
you gotta do it.
Me too. You're dead on. You're 1,000% dead on, because the expectation of today encourages younger actors to be like, I mean, I don't want to do this crap.
It's like, oh, really? I have to play this role?
Yeah, I want to be a lead. I want to do this. And I was over the moon at the weird shit that I was doing.
You embraced that.
Yeah, because they're letting me make fart noises on My Name's Earl. Like, this is crazy. Oh my God, someone's going to see me do this.
Like, I'm going to get paid for this?
Yeah. I'm going to make sure it's like a funny fart noise and take advantage of it. 24 was huge just because, you know, been such a Kiefer fan since the 80s, and I actually brought in, I mean, such a nerd. I don't know decorum. I think my second day of working with him, I brought in a copy of Lost Boys.
Wow.
And a copy of Young Guns.
No way.
To ask him to sign them.
What was the reaction?
Yeah, man.
He was down?
Yeah. He was so cool with it.
That's awesome.
I mean, you know,
because that could have shattered you. Be like,
1,000%.
Crap. This is what the industry's like. Yeah.
You think this is cool? Like, don't.
Yeah. But you just went for it. I like that.
Well, it was clueless, and it was just a bit so. I can't believe I'm looking at Kiefer Sutherland, and we're gonna have lunch together. That was fun. That was the first time I think I got squibs. You know, the blood shoot.
That's a big step in the trajectory, in the journey. It's like, all right, I'm gonna, somebody's gonna shoot at me, I'm gonna get killed, you know, that whole thing.
I have technical responsibilities. Yeah. I didn't think there'd be math here. And, you know, so it's all the timing. It's like, okay, so they're gonna pretend to shoot you. We're gonna set this off. You need to have it hit just before this happens. I'm like, okay.
A lot going on here.
One shot at it, because it takes 45 minutes to redo it.
Right.
And it wasn't great. It wasn't great. I don't even think I did anything. I just went, and the things happened.
But you timed it out right.
I mean,
barely.
Just barely.
You didn't have to shoot again.
Poorly enough that my father, who's such a supportive element of my life, so supportive. When I said, hey, I might add this major, he's like, do it, son. Try it. I said, hey, Dad, you see the 24? Yeah, it was good. Your death was kind of lame.
You're like, Dad, seriously? I'm on network TV? But Dad's keeping it real. You gotta appreciate that.
A real dad, man. I mean, he's kept me real. Huge part of my life. He's my mother.
That's awesome. Yeah. So when did the Letterman stuff pop up?
Again, serendipity.
Yeah.
So at that point, I had done some It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia's. Right. And the writers, the Stengel brothers, the writers of Letterman show, were talking, according to them, talking about, like, what about this off-putting, you know, kid who shows up and is working for the Letterman show and gives Letterman shit. And so they conceived of it, and they were walking by as I'm on the poster of a play I was doing at the time. Aaron Sorkin wrote his last play, before To Kill a Mockingbird, his last play on Broadway was the Farnsworth Invention, and I was Farnsworth, so my picture was there. And they will walk by like, that's the creepy guy from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Clearly he's in New York. Yeah. Let's see if he'll come do it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe that they wanted me to do that. And when I got to the stage, the writer read it through with me once. They stuck me in the green room. I watched the show on the monitor, and then they're like, go, push me out on the stage after the top 10, and I was just like, and I just slouch walked, and Letterman was so tickled by it that it became, instead of just this one-off thing, I think I did it a dozen times.
Wow,
maybe
that's
13.
Cool.
And each time it was new, and each time Dave would come up with shit that wasn't scripted, and it was a very kind of inclusive, lovely experience. I'm so grateful for that one, man. I love it when someone says, Lyle.
Yeah.
And I actually don't think David Letterman is aware of me as an actor.
Really?
I think
it's just Lyle.
He believes there is an intern who's that fucked up.
And then he's going to see you outside. He's like, isn't that Lyle?
Lyle.
Lyle.
What's Lyle doing?
But especially to be associated with somebody like that who has had so much staying power in the entertainment industry and is still doing it, bearded and all, on Netflix, you know?
Another level,
yeah.
Another reinvention of himself. That's a man who keeps reinventing himself.
Totally.
And yeah, he's like just this stalwart of comic dependency. That's not a thing, but
we're going to make it a thing.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the Sorkin connection there. What was that Broadway experience like for you?
It was a little harrowing because I wasn't quite, I don't think I quite had my sea legs yet. And so that was the first lead role I'd ever been offered, and it was for Aaron Sorkin. And the reason why I got in is because Sharon Bialy is a casting director, brilliant casting director in L.A., and she would bring me in for plays at La Jolla Playhouse. And so I went and did Tartuffe at La Jolla Playhouse, and so she knew me. And then I was just one of the thousands who came in, and Aaron was in the room, Des McAnuff, the director, was in the room, and weirdly enough, I was like dog sitting for Charlie Day.
You were Charlie Day's dog sitter.
Well, we started as we were tight buddies, and we lived together in New York City, and then we moved to LA, kind of together, lived there. And so just it was kind of pal.
I gotcha.
Thing. He wasn't paying me.
Right.
But
He's just like, hey buddy, can you watch my dog?
Yeah.
I gotcha.
So, but while I was there, I saw he had David Mamet's True and False, and I don't have any like actual theater training like from actual teachers of the craft. And so it was the first time I'd actually read someone describing how to act. And Mamet's take on it was just so dependent on having lived life as opposed to studied how to show a life that you haven't lived. And I found it just thrilling. And it made me feel like, oh, the fact that I don't have a NYU degree or Juilliard degree, that's not, that might be an asset.
Yeah.
If I look at it that way.
Absolutely.
If I choose to look at it that way. And so I kind of went into that audition feeling like an artist. And they gave me the part in La Jolla. And so Steven Spielberg came to the show.
Oh my gosh.
And said, I got to shake his hand. He said, great show, you guys. And he helped bring us to Broadway.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
So that's how I ended up on Broadway, just a scotch before I knew what I was doing.
When do you feel like you got your sea legs and you actually knew what you were doing? Like, what point in your career?
Well, I'm always getting sea legs to different degrees.
Right.
There was, I would say, around Breakout Kings.
Okay.
It's this show Nick Santor, very talented writer, created. It was my first series regular. And very quickly, I saw that they were leaning the show towards this kind of nerdish, very articulate skill set that I have. And I understood that that's a bit of a commodity, and that's something that's really fun for me.
Right.
And I started feeling like I knew how to handle that kind of work, to be the weirdo. And it was, I would say, Breakout Kings made me feel pretty confident. And then another sea legs was Westworld.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, just a completely different type of character than I'd ever really played on film. And that was such a period of growth for me, working with such talented actors, seeing people who have done things that I've respected for years, and then being part of that. It, like I said, it just forced me to be like, I'm going to rise as high as I can to be near these people's level. And I worked my butt off for that. And I was really pleased with results, honestly. And I saw, oh, I have that ability too. And so, you know, with acting, it's this reflection. It's like seeing your abilities. I think the craft, you get better by doing it. And it's tough to get good if you're not doing it a lot.
And by pushing yourself also into different stuff, not just the same roles over and over again.
That's kind of my favorite thing, is to like sidestep from project to project.
Well, you have some range when you look at your resume and your career. Like, you've been willing to do a bunch of different things.
Well, yeah. I mean, well, you know, I like to be invited, and then I go and I show up, and I just, you know, most of it wasn't by choice.
Right.
It was like, you know, 15 years of like, yes, I will do that.
Right.
Yes,
oh, they're going to pay me for this.
Yes, yes.
I need to pay for rent.
Yes.
It's like,
they're
okay,
allowing
cool.
me
Right.
to do that. Yes, please. So I think I kind of lucked out in being not, you know, some kind of perfect looking leading man type. Is you just get to play all different things.
Yeah, that's a great situation.
Oh yeah, and it's so, like you said, it tells you to stretch yourself to get to all these different. Instead of just being like, I'm going to convey this, and you're just going to look at me. You have to kind of work your butt off when you're a character actor.
Definitely.
Like, okay, I'm here to make this scene work this way. Okay, and you also, your work is focused into small amounts, so you can prepare your butt off. Whereas, you know, the leads, if I started as a lead, I would have been so overwhelmed.
And it's a much longer runway for a whole season of a show, whereas for you, maybe it's just a couple episodes here, maybe it's just one day.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Totally different situation.
Yeah, so you can kind of overanalyze and just work it.
And just let it all out, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah,
so,
you take your shot. You got a little
absolutely.
shot. So
That's your only time to do it.
Exactly,
you know?
man.
So how long did you and Charlie live together?
We lived together, I don't know, 2 years in New York. Then I moved to LA, and he followed me maybe 3 months later. And so then we lived in LA for 2-3 years.
And how old were you guys at this point?
I would say like 23 to 28-ish.
I gotcha.
We lived together.
And how'd you guys meet initially?
Williamstown Theater Festival.
Ah, there you go.
Again, because my university didn't have a big theater program, so there was no showcase, which is, you know, where they show students to agents and such. So she goes, you got to do an apprenticeship. I think Williamstown is kind of the top shelf apprenticeship place. Went there, paid some money, met Charlie Day. We hit it off right away. And, you know, I think my time with Charlie in this tiny apartment on the Lower East Side, neither of us could get arrested on film. YouTube didn't exist, but I had my camcorder that was the family's crappy old camcorder that I stole. And so we'd make videos. This is pre-YouTube, so, and in-camera editing, so it'd be like we'd come up with a concept for a sketch, be like, okay, just say a line. And he says something, like, okay, and then he's holding the camera, hit record, and I respond as if it's, you know, we're
right, you're having that back and forth that way, yeah.
And we did that for years. I actually did stick some of them on YouTube a few years later. They're ridiculous.
Are they still up there?
Yeah.
I gotta check those out.
Ridiculous. I am at my weirdest in that stuff.
Even weirder than Always Sunny? Yeah?
I would say so. Because, you know, there's also the lack of vanity from never being like, you're a hot person. So
you're just leaving it all out there, yeah.
So I would put teeth in, I was just so willing to be ugly.
Yeah.
That it's just so there's just no stakes there. And since there was no YouTube to put them up, we would just sit there and watch them. We'd invite friends over. It'd be like, yeah, we made this stuff.
Like on a VHS and the TV, or?
Pop it right in.
Wow.
And it was, I really think that is where I got my first sea legs. Because it's the practice of seeing yourself and seeing how you serve this craft, you know, and seeing what you do well, seeing what you don't do well, being okay with that.
Yeah.
And then reaching for the stuff you do well. And, you know, with Charlie Day, he's like an explosive comedic genius, you know. He has these abilities that are so wonderful. And so doing these sketches with him, it was a couple sketches in, I was like, I'm never going to be that funny. And it was just so clear. So I started leaning towards, okay, what if I'm the dark element? What if I'm the kind of like subtler, creepier element, kind of the deadpan straight man to his stuff, and I actually liked what I was seeing when I would move in that direction.
And you kind of leaned into that even more. Yeah.
And, you know, Rob McElhenney even says, when he was writing the first It's Always Sunny, which I think was called It's Always Sunny on TV, he was just like, he was thinking of those sketches we did and how outlandish the characters were and how ridiculous. And I don't know, it was such a central part of my beginning, is doing sketches with my friends, because there's no stakes.
Right.
You know, it's not an audition where it's like a make or break.
There's no rejection here.
None.
Yeah.
None. And every time a young actor says, what do I do? Tape yourself with your friends.
Get in front of a camera.
It doesn't, well, no one's going to, it doesn't matter. I'm not saying be a YouTube success. I'm saying practice. I promise you.
You need reps. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, up the reps, man.
Yes, definitely.
That's a great analogy. I was talking to Anique Muller, who
your wonderful publicist.
Yes, she's so lovely. She made this great kind of sports analogy to the craft.
Yeah.
You know, it's a muscle.
Absolutely.
And it's so easy to get atrophied. You know, I love doing theater in between film and TV, because in theater I get to rehearse and I get to really push my own boundaries without a producer going, this day's costing us this much, this better look cool, this better win an award, and it's just about the craft. What am I capable of? The only stakes are your own ego. And so if you can put that aside, there are no stakes, and you just do it.
Yeah, and it's like on the stage, it's like doing the script justice. Whereas like in TV, I'm sure you've seen it all around. It's like there's a lot of pressure financially. There's a lot of pressure with awards. Like, how do you make sure you just block that stuff out when you are doing TV shows?
Amen, man.
Yeah.
Amen. It's true. You just have to train yourself into looking at it as the craft. You know, that's the case. That's part of the thing that threw me off with being on Broadway, is just everything was so dependent on ticket sales, and it felt very, very pressure filled. And I decided, because I was so kind of green, I'm going to focus on all that pressure. You know, unwittingly decided this, and it throws you off, man.
Yeah,
it can't be about
I get that.
If it's about that, you're gonna lose your way, I think.
Especially because for you, it's like leading role, doing that for the first time. Sorkin, Broadway, Spielberg brings this to. There's a lot of pressure there, and it's not just easy to say, okay, I'm gonna block this all out.
Yeah.
So how long was that run on Broadway for you?
We ran, well, you know, we had the La Jolla run. In total, was about a year and a half.
Nice.
But the Broadway run was maybe 6 months.
I'm sure that was a crazy 6 months for you.
It was. It really was. It was wonderful, but it showed me how much I needed to grow. And I actually, you know, maybe I talk too much, but I wrote Aaron a letter after he asked me to do a couple newsrooms. And I just wanted, I was like, I just want to say thank you for having faith in me. I know it's partly in my head, but I always want to get better for you. And, you know, that's just the drive in me. It's just to do better each time.
And that personal touch, I feel like, goes a long way, too. You know, because like relationships in this business are so important.
Oh,
and
sure.
so hopping on a newsroom with Sorkin again, like it's like, all right, I can trust this guy. I know what kind of work he does. He's going to get the job done here.
Yeah, I was really flattered.
And that was a great show, too.
Oh, my God, such a good show. And I love the little character I got to play, and working with Allison Pills. Dreamy.
That's right, yeah.
She's so great. I had been watching her in theater since I lived in New York.
You've had a lot of great roles. I mean, between that show, the Always Sunny role, I'm sure people come up to you all the time with that one.
Oh my God, yeah.
Is that your most recognizable role at this point? It's got to be up there.
It's up there. It's a tie with Westworld.
Because that's a passionate fan base there.
Exactly.
Whereas like Always Sunny, passionate, you know.
Longevity.
Definitely, the staying power of that show is remarkable.
I think they're on course to be the longest running sitcom.
Because it's how many seasons?
They're on 14. 14? I want to say they're filming 14.
Wow. Okay.
And
I feel like I got.
Will be 15.
Wow. I think I've missed a couple of the last ones then. Because it was on like Netflix and watched them. I feel like I watched 11 or 12 at least.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about playing on a show. I mean, with Charlie, with all those guys like that, that must just be an absolute joy.
Yeah, it's a real throwback to those sketch times.
Right, because it probably feels like it's just the camcorder thing again, just for a much larger audience in a sense.
It really is, and Rob McElhenney does such a great job of keeping that. He's not always directing, but he's always offering the structure, and it's about like keeping it honest, keeping it real, keeping it loose, and we'll do one as scripted, and then everybody starts playing around,
right,
and something awesome always comes up, because they're all such talented actors on that show. God, they're so good.
You've worked with a lot of incredible people. You know, like even the House of Cards run that you had. I mean, that must have been pretty dope to jump into that, because that's at a point where like people are binging House of Cards, like they're getting Netflix because of House of Cards, and you have this really interesting, unique role in terms of how you're breaking through the show. So what do you remember about that?
That was a little sea-leggy. I'd gone through some like personal stuff and had to like start over again, and I was in a bit of a slump, and that role came along. I actually was so out of touch, I hadn't seen the show. And Lorraine Mayfield, casting director, brought me in, David Fincher's casting director, and talk about personal touch. She asked, before we did the read, she says, "How you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I'm okay. You know, I'm good.
Just
I'm
being real about it, yeah.
And she's like, good, because I've been thinking about you. I'm like, thank you so much. I do the read. Mediocre at best. At best.
Just being honest about it, yeah. It wasn't your best stuff.
Yeah. And so I left thinking, gosh, Lorraine's great. I wish I could have shown up for her more. And I get a call a couple days later from my manager I've been with the entire time, Kim Callahan, saying, Lorraine wants you to come back in, give it another shot. I mean, I've never heard of that. She wants to send something to them and thinks you could do a little better. And so it's like, hell yeah.
Yeah, let's just make sure that happens.
No kidding. So I showed up, and I did do better, and I got the part. And so that was not just the connection with someone in such a potentially superficial business, but like an honest connection, but just like, oh, I'm not done. I'm not done with this career path.
Right.
And it gave me the little bit of encouragement I needed to keep working my ass off. And so I didn't let that opportunity go to waste.
Well, imagine how different things could have been if you don't get that call to come back through. You know, based on what you're going through personally,
no question,
where the career was at. I mean, that was a huge bounce back and opened you up to a much bigger audience too.
Yeah. Absolute gratitude for that experience. And Lorraine, and I tell her all the time.
That's awesome.
Gotta love people.
Yeah, you remember names. Like, I think you definitely are a people person. Whereas like people focus on projects, people focus on what it's done for their career. You focused on the people, just in talking to me about whether it's Letterman, whether it's Always Sunny. Like, that definitely is a unique thing about you. Talking to you here.
Yeah, well, that's my mom. She's just so sweet, and she you know, every Christmas she's like, you ready to write your thank you notes? And so I never received a thing without writing a thank you note when I was in her household. And
you've carried that on.
Yeah, well,
so Mr. Aaron Sorkin, boom.
I've definitely dropped some, but just the appreciation and kindness and politeness, and I do believe in people. I really do.
That's what it comes down to ultimately.
Yeah. I think we all have such potential to be such caring, comfortable,
empathetic people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think empathy actually is the next stage in human evolution.
Yeah.
There's going to be, because it has to happen.
I hope so. Yeah.
Well, if it doesn't, we die.
Yeah.
Everything's over.
Yep, that's a wrap.
I mean,
seriously.
Simply,
yeah.
Like the shoot bang out of like the Wild West of like, let's shoot each other and take a piece of land.
Right.
That's not the thing anymore. All the land's taken.
Yep.
Get along. There's limited food and limited space, limited water, limited air. Let's consider each other. Yeah.
Yeah, that's real.
Yeah, man.
So I've run through a bunch of things in your career. What are some other things that stick out to you, whether it's certain projects, certain people you've worked with, just right off the top of your head right now?
Hap and Leonard always pops up when people ask me about like things that people don't talk about very much. It was I just finished doing a play with Laurie Metcalf in Atwater for a 99-seat house. And that was a pretty big role for me.
Yeah.
So I'd been kind of creepy guys, or like a villain for a moment, but I hadn't been like the thrust of the villain, like the heart, who's actually going to be the antagonist that almost foils the story.
Right.
And so I took that really seriously, and I threw my guts into it. And I honestly, I left thinking I've failed on some level.
Why is that?
Because it was so kind of different that I didn't believe, I hadn't seen it. So I don't believe something until I've seen it.
Right.
I'm a little bit cynical. And so I was just like, I mean, yeah, I threw my guts into it, but I don't know what that's going to come off like. And I was actually scared to see it. And when I saw it, I said, oh, well, I like this very much. And I was impressed with the ability to just kind of, show up in a different way than I'd ever shown up before. And it was just like, oh, I have potential.
I can do this.
Yeah. And just this idea that, okay, if I apply myself, I have range. If I work hard, I have range. And so, yeah, and I got to do some really cool stuff in that series. Having Leonard.
Yeah, definitely a good one.
Leonard was good.
What's a role you haven't played yet that you'd like to try out?
Well, I have a role that I really want to play. It's George from Edward Albee's Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. The role's a bit older than I am, but I feel like I've always kind of, with everything, the amalgam
building
of everything
towards
I've
that.
done, it's all working towards playing George at some point. It was kind of the first play I went head over heels in love with. I've been slowly preparing the memorization of it over the past 20 years. Yeah. So that's what I want to do.
Keep it in the back of your head. Yeah.
I mean, it's tough to think of like a filmic version on top of Mike Nichols, Richard Burton, Elizabeth Taylor, but I do love the stage.
Yeah.
So at some point, I'm going to be. That's the one thing I'm focused on trying hard to get specifically, is a production of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. It's the one thing
that you
it's
really want.
Albatross.
Yeah.
Yeah. George.
And that's interesting. In a career where you didn't expect to be here, where you haven't necessarily been going after everything so gung-ho, this is the one.
There's a play
big
that
one
I want to do. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, man.
Well, Jimmy, thanks so much, man.
Thank
Absolute
you,
pleasure.
Man.
Perpetual Grace on Epics. That's the guy?
That's the guy.
You can check out this guy there.
DJ Sixsmith.
That's Jimmy. I'm DJ. We'll see you next time here on The Sit Down.
Thank you.